Hi, friends, and welcome back to the fifth episode of The Power of Reason. Have you ever uttered anything like, I knew it all along, or they should have seen it coming? I think we all have said something like that before. The only problem is that we often didn't actually know it all along, but in the aftermath, we just feel like we did know it. After an event has happened, we tend to believe that it was more predictable than it actually was. This is known as hindsight bias, also known as creeping determinism. Before the fact, we might make a prediction, and after the event, we tend to forget the prediction in favor of what has actually happened, which suddenly seems to make more sense, as if it was predetermined. The deterministic view has crept up on us, hence the term creeping determinism. When reconstructing a past story and looking at how events unfolded, we tend to attribute a large role to the talent or the stupidity of people involved. We also attribute a large role to their intentions. But we do not attribute a sufficient role to luck, forgetting that chance is a huge player in life and ignoring that all the other possible scenarios that could have happened did not happen. For example, when we think of Mark Zuckerberg creating Facebook, we cannot help but think of the success story as fully determined. It seems like he carried out all the correct actions at the correct time. While talent and effort are certainly required, for sure, luck still plays a very large role too. There were innumerable steps that could have gone wrong in the Facebook story, but simply did not, thanks to luck. And yet, looking back, it almost seems like such a simple original idea and a logical sequence of events, when in fact it was not predictable at all at the time, and far from predetermined. The concept of hindsight bias was first proposed in 1972 by two scientists named Fishoff and Bath. At that time, in 1972, Nixon was president, and he of the United States of America, of course, and he was soon due to visit China. It was a major political event at the time. So an experiment was set up where 15 different possible outcomes of the upcoming visit of Nixon to China were listed, and participants to the study had to assign a probability to each of these 15 outcomes based on, their own belief and their own predictions. After Nixon returned from China, the participants were unexpectedly called back, and they were asked if they remembered the probabilities that they originally assigned to the possible events. The result was very interesting. If an event had actually occurred, people remembered having predicted a higher probability for that event, even if their original prediction was much lower. The hindsight bias led them to believe that their predictions were more accurate than they actually were. The explanation for this bias, is in the need of our intuitive system to create a coherent story by resorting to the availability heuristic and the effect heuristic, which we seen in previous episodes. The new information is more available in memory and therefore rated more probable, subconsciously. And we also have an emotional tendency to believe ourselves as being correct. So subconsciously, we forget our inaccurate prediction. As a side effect, thinking that we understand the past and that we knew it all along additionally gives us an illusion that the future is more predictable than it is. And when judging other people's past decisions, we tend to assess the quality of the decision not by looking at the process they went through, but by looking only at the outcome. And this can often be negative, especially when the consequences are serious. For example, when a jury blames a defendant, saying that they could have easily prevented the bad outcome. Or when a physician, a doctor, is seen as irresponsible after a bad surgery, when in fact they had done all they could at the time. And this is why in modern medicine there are standard procedures and checklists to be followed. Another negative consequence of hindsight bias is the impairment of one's ability to learn from experience. People are unable to look back on past decisions and to learn from mistakes as long as they think they knew it all along. Or if they think of everything as predetermined, underestimating the large role of chance in any story, as we will better understand later in the series when I will be talking about statistical effects. A way to moderate the hindsight bias is by considering, after an event, a few different ways in which things could have evolved, had something gone even slightly different. This type of exercise gives a better frame for analysis and the opportunity to learn something from it. As a final concept for this episode, I would like to talk about causality and intentionality, or how our intuition likes to see causes and intentions. Let me tell you a very short story. It was a hot day. I took a walk to the park and discovered that many people were already there. End of the story. Short story, I told you. I didn't tell you why many people were at the park, but I'm sure that upon hearing this story, anyone will know why people were at the park based on the little information that I provided. Presumably, the hot day is what caused people to be at the park, and not the fact that I took a walk. Anybody can see the correct cause and effect in this story. Our brain has evolved to see cause and effect. When interpreting an event, our intuitive system always finds a cause in order to complete the story. Often, however, the need for a cause will make us see causality even when there might not be any causality. If I say, most of the people who attempted this exercise failed, you will immediately find a cause. The exercise is difficult, is the conclusion, seems the logical conclusion, seems to be. It is irresistible to complete the story. Yet we have not been given any information about the context or who the people were, or even the nature of the exercise. In 1945, an audience during an experiment was shown a cartoon of a moving square coming in contact with another square, which, after a while, started moving too. Everybody could see causality. Everyone in the audience of this experiment could see causality. What they could see is that the first square caused the second to move, even though the two squares are not even real, and no one did actually cause the other to move. The perception of intention and cause is irresistible in our mind. In the same year, 1945, I believe, another cartoon was made for another experiment showing a large triangle in this cartoon there was a large triangle bullying a smaller triangle and bullying a terrified circle. This was the cartoon was representing. And then the victims were joining forces to defeat the bully. Everyone could see the intentions of the characters in this cartoon. Everybody could see the causes and the effects. Our mind automatically attributes agency to the inanimate characters, even if they are triangles and circles in a cartoon. We see their personality, we see their intentions, and even if they are not real, we cannot help but seeing these intentions and causes. In a very similar way, actually, we often erroneously attribute agency to animals and pets. Animals only act instinctively, and for this reason, if a bear attacks someone in the forest, we do not put the bear in prison. The bear didn't have an intention to harm. If a dog learns a trick, it is by repetition, right? And not by rational intention. The inexistent intention of the dog is only seen by our mind. As we will see, the main sources of error in causal thinking arise in situations which require statistical thinking. We often fail to accept the random fluctuations of luck and tend to attribute causality even to the whims of chance. In order to understand this better, from next time, I will introduce some basic concepts of statistics and how we can use these tools to interpret a variety of everyday scenarios and also give us the ability to make sense of data and studies and quickly distinguish legitimate conclusions from ridiculous ones. So, next time. For now, thank you very much.